What do you do for fun other than Catholic stuff? What do you enjoy doing that has nothing to do with theology?
Look, it only gets nerdier from here. I mean, fortunately, like I'm doing a lot of dad stuff. Yeah, exactly. Get lost in Wikipedia rabbit trails. No, oh my gosh, Wordle and Quirtle and Octurtle.
I don't know what they are.
It's word games. It's like you try to guess the word. And you don't know what Wordle is?
No
do you know what
idea.
Wordle is?
I've heard with Words with Friends.
That was like 10 years ago.
Sorry.
I've just papered over Scrabble.
People still play Wordle.
Yeah.
Thanks, Neil.
But yeah, it's not cool anymore.
Okay.
Wordle is like an extremely popular. People are posting this stuff all the time. They're like, how many guesses? You have a 5-letter word and you're trying to guess it. You've got 6 tries.
And you have a bunch of words below and you've got to fill it in?
No. So you've got 5 squares, 5-letter word. You just guess a word. And it tells you every there's 3 colors. Either gray, that letter does not appear.
Okay.
Green, right letter, right place.
Oh, I see.
Yellow, right letter, wrong place.
So it's
if
like
you've
an
ever played
advanced
Mastermind.
Hangman. Okay. Mastermind. Yes, I know what you mean. I've played that. Yeah, that's such a cool game.
Yeah, like that, but instead of colors, it's with words. And so then you're like, okay, cool. Well, this word ends in a T. And there's an R, but the R isn't here. It's somewhere else in the word. Okay. And then you try to think of another word that's like a 5-letter word that fits those criteria. And it's a good, like, mild mental stimulation.
Yeah, it's kind of like what our parents would have done if they didn't have crossword puzzles and they did have iPhones. Oh, yeah,
I also do a lot of crossword puzzles.
Do you?
So, yeah, any kind of word games. I love playing with words.
What about, like, geeky, Trent Horn, Jimmy Aiken comic book stuff? Are you into that?
I feel like this is going to sound very judgy. I was when I was younger.
When I was a boy, I thought as a boy.
Exactly. I mean, I will go see a Marvel movie, but I don't have time for like comic books.
I'm so uninterested in Marvel movies. Honestly, I'm not just saying that to sound cool, but there's zero interest in me.
The last one I saw was, I think, either Endgame or whatever one came right after that. And then I haven't really had. It's the other thing is like, going to a theater right now, it's just I've got a 2-year-old and a 7-month-old. Unless I just leave them at home and hope nobody notices for 2 hours, and then I gotta call the fire department and
just word games. That's it.
I don't know. I mean, I'm trying to think
I'm pretty boring as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, like I'm not. No, like I like sitting and talking with people. That's really it. I don't.
Yeah, like sitting by the fire. We have a fireplace in our house.
Nice, real.
It's gas, but it's still
mine
the
too.
fire's real.
I hate it so much. Yeah. Someone recently said, there's some movement that's saying like you really shouldn't be burning wood. It's bad for you. These are the same sorts of people who tell you to stop drinking coffee. They can just go away. My
wife is really big on butter over margarine. And so any of these movements where like artificial things replace real things, she's got her like antenna up against it. 20 years you're going to find out.
But that's true. It's a real fire. Fair enough.
Yeah. So, just sitting around the fire talking and, occasionally board games.
What's your favorite board game?
Party game Secret Hitler.
What?
The game is called Secret Hitler.
Okay,
if you've ever played the game Mafia.
I've heard of Secret Hitler. Tell me how it goes.
So the setting is 1920s or 1930s Germany. And you've got some people who are secretly Nazis and some people who are secretly Democrats, like small d. And you're trying to pass legislation that helps one side or the other. And so there's 2 people involved in like the passing of the legislation. And the way it works, either of them can like basically scuttle a thing. Mm-hmm. And so then if you're like, the Nazi thing passed instead of the Democratic thing, which of them is a Nazi? Or was it, so it's that kind of thing.
How many people do you need to play that game?
5 or more. It's like 5 to 10. So rarely do we get a chance to do it.
That sounds real
But
fun.
It's one of these great ones where you're trying to read the other people in the room. I did hear a funny story. I was talking about this with a priest friend recently, and he said that a priest he knew on a retreat had said, I hear there are a lot of Secret Hitler fans here. And didn't think about the fact that those words without italics.
Yes.
And like a nun wrote to him and was like, that was totally inappropriate, Father.
Yes, it was. If that's what he meant.
It turned out that was a total misunderstanding. So yeah, it's that where you're either playing as a good guy or a bad guy, and there's subterfuge and all that stuff where you're not really playing a board, you're playing one another. And there's just enough chance to make it kind of like it's thrilling, it's interesting. And
yeah, I like that. My mate Mike Welker lives a few doors down from me. He teaches game theory here at the school, and his kind of room is filled with board games. But if somebody's got to spend a lot of time explaining a game to me, I just get bored so quickly.
I have a good check on that in my own home.
I don't have the discipline.
I like to read occasionally how a game works.
Yeah.
And my wife does not.
No.
And she doesn't like to listen to it either. She wants to just like find out while playing. Or,
I'm kind of like
or
that
she'll
too.
just complain like, "Hey, you didn't tell me about that rule. Like, you didn't let me tell you about that."
Yeah.
So
I wanted to give you an hour lecture before
exactly. I think it's just cool to hear about how all the pieces good work.
I think the latest game I played that I can say I actually enjoyed, as opposed to pretended to, was Settlers of Catan.
Oh yeah, sure, it's classic.
That was a real fun game. And it was the kind of game where you could be conquered and then all of a sudden turn around. Like almost conquered and kind of turn around and win the game. What about you, Neil?
Well, I just want to put in, me and my girlfriend have bonded over the fact that we both don't like Settlers of Catan. So I just think it takes too long to play. So it's frustrating in that aspect. And it's just...
I love that that's something you've bonded over.
You know what board game I hate? Monopoly.
Yeah.
I really do.
Because it's just a game of chance, isn't it? It's not. There's no strategy. Just buy everything.
Games that are just like pure chance. Friends to Sales actually talks about this. He says it's fine to gamble as long as it's on a game of skill, but it's sinful to like gamble on a game of chance.
Yeah.
And because it's just not fitting with human reason.
Yeah.
And there's something about that where it's like, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. And I think with board games, like War is a terrible game. Candyland is a terrible game. Candyland is strictly double predestination. It's you just draw a card and you go wherever the card tells you. And literally the reason you can play with a kid is there's no strategy. There's no autonomy. You have the illusion of being able to make a decision. You call one of the characters yours, but like you're no more in control of it than your opponent is. The cards determine everything. And it's...
So what about a game like Farkle? Have you played that? I've got to be careful with my Australian accent when I say Farkle. Farkle. It's a dice game. I think you got 6 die.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and is die the single or plural? I always forget.
Die is plural, I think. I get confused.
I don't know. You should definitely look it up, Catholic Jamie. That's your job.
1, dice is 2.
But you roll the dice, and then you're trying to get a certain pattern, and then you choose a couple and you put them aside because you want to build off that. It's kind of like poker, then you roll the others. So in some sense it's strategy, but it's also risk.
Yeah.
Dice is more than one.
Okay.
Oh, I had that backwards. Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So what about that kind of game?
Yeah, something like that. I really enjoyed that kind of thing, and that's nice because it's got just the right level of complexity.
Yeah.
Something where there's a little bit of a gamble in it.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example. There's a game called Medieval Mastery, and it doesn't matter. Like you go to war with other people and blah blah blah. But you play one card, and you've got anywhere from like a 1 to 6 card in your hand, or you have a card that's just a dice or a dice. That's what it is. A die. Sorry, I still had it backwards. And so you can either say like, okay, I've got like a 4, and maybe I don't have a 5 or a 6. If they play a 5 or 6, I'm just sunk.
Okay.
Or I could play this dice card and then roll the dice. And then I have whatever that is. So I can just choose the chance option.
Okay. What's this game called?
Medieval Mastery.
I like it.
It's kind of a clever design where you can choose kind of the level of chance that you want with it. If your strategy is really well done, you may be unbeatable. Or maybe the person comes along and says, oh, here's this whole thing you weren't expecting.
What would Thomas Aquinas have to say about poker?
That's a good question.
Because I know lying's always off the table, but I don't think he's against sort of insinuating one way or the other necessarily.
Yeah.
But I'd have to brush up on that. I'm not sure.
Bluffing and all of that, it doesn't even, because he's pretty clear from my reading of him on lying that it's a speech act. And, it's not just misleading body language, not just poker. Think about football.
Yeah.
You can juke left and run right.
Yeah.
Either football we may be thinking of. Any of that sort of thing, you're not lying there.
What about poker, though? You like poker? I'm trying to get you away from theological topics.
Oh, yeah, totally. I do like poker.
And then you're like, Francis de Sales. No!
Yeah. Sorry. You can see
I brought up Thomas.
I'm very boring at parties.
No. Let's play a game. Well, Francis de Sales.
Exactly.
But do you like poker?
I do.
Yeah, it's a fun game.
I haven't played in a while, but it is one of those classic games where you're playing the other people. I like games like that.
Yeah.
Like, if it's me playing a board, Yeah. But if it's me, like, trying to figure out what the other person's up to, that's a lot more fun.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of any activity that forces people to sit down together. Like, I like cigars because you got to commit to like an hour or an hour and a half with someone. You don't get up and walk around with a cigar typically. You tend to sit. Board game, same kind of thing.
Yeah, I think video poker sounds extremely boring. Yeah. But in-person poker is a lot of fun.
I wonder why people do that. Is it to kind of hone their skills so they can be better with in-person poker, or are they making money off it?
I think there are also people who the thrill of poker is not the interpersonal thing. It's the, who was it? Was it Dostoevsky, I think it was. He's epileptic. And he said, like, right before a seizure was like the most incredible feeling. Wow. This sensation.
Just
the
losing control? Or what?
I don't know exactly how he described it.
It's like a light, I think, if I remember.
Yeah. Exactly. That kind of, and the closest thing he found to it was betting huge sums of money he couldn't afford to lose.
That's why he became an addict, yeah.
Yeah. And so that kind of thing, that's also the hallmark of the addict. You're no longer playing for the enjoyment of the thing. There's an adrenaline rush with like the danger of the law. And that can only escalate. That can only kind of go up.
I heard it said from one gambling addict that he was trying to lose all his money because once it was gone, then he could finally breathe and go home. Wow. But as long as he kept making money, he had to keep spending it. And it was just this.
Yeah, thanks be to God, I don't have that particular inclination.
Yeah.
But I understand it. Like that, the hunt for adrenaline, the hunt for that kind of high, a very specific kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where, I heard or I read about a gambling addict who put himself on one of those like lists where he blacklisted himself from the casinos. And then he had a hand with a royal flush that he had to play. Oh. And he won a huge jackpot that then they wouldn't give him.
No way.
And then they kicked him out.
Because he was blacklisted.
Yeah. Oh, and so they were happy to take his money after he'd blacklisted himself. But when he actually won, they kept the money too. I mean, it was actually pretty sick and very like predatory.
Yeah.
But you're thinking like, what were you doing? What were you hoping was going to happen? You know, there's something just so strange about the behavior itself that in some ways is like more interesting than
it is bizarre, right? Because like pornography is more understandable to me than gambling. It's like sex. You have a sexual drive. Fornication is attractive. I get it. But gambling well, you know what's interesting is gambling's not about money. And porn isn't about sex.
Well, right.
So once you understand that,
exactly.
What you're chasing isn't the thing that seems so obvious.
A lot of people who are addicted to porn, it's not about like, the sexual release or something like that. It's about doing something they know they're not supposed to do, and they kind of high off of that. And
novelty. Yep.
The escalation of just chasing. It's what is that called? The eudaimonic treadmill, where you're just chasing happiness and chasing more and more and more and more and more.
Mm-hmm.
But happiness in the very broad. I'm not saying like, this will satisfy you.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought about the video.